this is only half of what I read this month. Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hey, how you doing? My name is Ash. I am a makeup artist and a book lover, and this video combines my two loves. I did a video similar to this last month where I talked about my August reads, and I think I really enjoy doing these even though I suck at explaining things. I will admit September was a crazy month for me, as you know, and I am highly surprised that I managed to read as much as I did. So I know I talked a lot, so without further ado, if you're interested to know my makeup and everything that I read, just keep on watching. Alright, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of start with my hair and talk about the Kindle books I read, and then I will get into the physical books I read as I do my makeup, because I read 20 books this month. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to put on my moisturizer, then I'll start on my hair. So I'm going to go in with the Lawless Perfecting Cream. This is a really great cream for under your makeup. I have been really enjoying it. A little bit on. Not going to put too much on because I do have a primer that I want to put on also. And I have a notebook where I wrote down, you know, notes from the stories because I have the worst memory when it comes to reading. And the first book I read this month is Method of Matrimony by Malcom, and I gave this one, I think, 4 stars. This is technically the second book in the Jupiter Tie series, and this follows Kip and Fiona. It's basically a forced proximity, fake marriage sort of thing. Fiona is from Australia, I believe, and she is in the US on a visa that is set to expire, and she wants to remain in America. I'm gonna go in with my heat spray. This is my favorite thermal protection from Bumble and Bumble. It's great. So she needs to get married. Kip has his family breathing down his neck, basically. Not to get married because they want him to be married, but he's been sort of not himself in a way because he had a wife and child that died. Fiona was unaware of that because she just knew him as like the guy that slept with literally everybody, and she wasn't into that. I'm gonna go in with my Chi hair straightener. Now this book does deal with some heavy themes. There is talks of miscarriage and domestic violence. It is kind of a slow burn book. They have a enemies to lovers feel to it. They are, you know, sexually attracted to each other, but they don't want to do anything, and then she winds up pregnant, and the story really takes a turn from there. I will say I like this book a lot more than the first one. I read the first one at the end of August. My hair has grown so much since, when was it, February? March or February when I chopped it all off. I had it chopped off to like here. So it's grown about that much in like over 6 months. Next book I read was Dragon Daddy's Nanny. It's the first of 3 books by Roxie, and it all follows the same couple. Mariah is a human, and she gets a job as a nanny for Evan's daughter, who is a dragon shifter. I didn't continue on with the series because I wasn't that much of a fan of it. I gave it 3 stars. There wasn't anything really captivating to it. It was kind of all cliche, but if you read any other Roxie Rave's books, it's kind of in line with some of her other stories. And the next book is Saving Rain by Kelsey, I think. If I'm saying the names wrong, I apologize. I can't read my handwriting. I ended up giving this book 5 stars, and it took me forever to read it because I got COVID in the middle of starting it. The names are weird in this. You have Soldier and Rain. It's really a heart-wrenching story. There's a lot of sad components to it because Soldier, you can tell he wasn't wanted as a child from his mom. He never knew who his father was. His grandparents basically raised him because his mom was in and out of rehab. She was a heavy drug addict. One of the main things that is told in the story is the mom would always tell Soldier, "You're gonna save me, right?" So he grew up with the idea that he had to save her. He meets Rain for the first time when he basically saves her from getting assaulted, and that was the first and last time he would see her for a very long time. You kind of feel like the story is less about saving Rain and it's more about saving Soldier. Overall, I give that 5 stars because I really did enjoy it. I don't feel like it could be actually classified as a romance. It was more like a contemporary survival story. So the next 4 books I read are all part of a series by Sadie Sears, and it's the Dragons for Hire series. So I read The Dragon's Fake Fiance, The Dragon's Healing Touch, The Dragon's Bewitching Mate, and The Dragon's Savior. I'm not gonna get too in-depth about these. I gave the first 2 books a 3 and the last 2 books a 4. But basically these dragon shifters move to this like magical town and they start finding their true mates. We don't get stories of the other dragon shifters, but it does mention in the final epilogue that everybody basically finds their happily ever after. And then the next book is Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. It is book 1 in the Vancouver Storm series. This is between Pippa and Jamie. Pippa is a singer-songwriter who is down on her luck because her ex basically broke up with her via text, stole her song, and basically talked down to her for everything. She ends up becoming the assistant of Jamie, who is an NFL player who moved back to his hometown to be closer to his mom. And they actually went to high school together, and she had the biggest crush on him. And you find out that he had a crush on her, so it's kind of like a second chance, but it's also forced proximity because they end up having to live together, and they have a dog, and it's just really cute how it plays out together. There is spice in it. You get the little good girl action in there, and it's kind of really cute how their relationship unfolds. And I don't know if I said that, but I gave this one 5 stars. Alright, and the next book was Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels. I gave this one 4 stars, and it is the first book in the Whitlock family series. This is about Asher and Phoebe. There is about a 14-year age gap, so it is age gap. She's his boss. She nannies his deaf child. She wants to work with people that have hearing disabilities. You can classify this as grumpy sunshine. They do fight their attraction, and there's an element thrown in that Phoebe is actually the daughter of his boss, because he works as a local cop. His boss is her dad, the guy who runs the place, the sheriff. There is a tie-in to another author, Melanie Harlow. It mentions Cloverley something. If you've read it, you know it. One of the problems I had with this is if you, because I believe she's 20 and he's 34. I find it hard to believe that you're a 34-year-old man and you never had one relationship. The last book I read on my Kindle was Country and Clove. It is the 5th book in the Chosen Shifter Mate series by Violet Taylor. I gave this one a 5. I gave every book in the series a 5. I read the first 3 books earlier in the year before I started making book content. So this involves around Erin, who is a shifter, and Clove, who is also a shifter. You kind of have to read like the first stories to kind of have an idea of how this world is set up and what's going on with it. But Erin is close to the alpha who leads their group, and he went through a tragedy. If you read the previous books, you'll understand what happened, and it is explained in the story. I don't want to spoil too much. He ends up rejecting Clove because he doesn't want a mate, because he thinks mates are a weakness. So fighting that sort of attraction is hard for them. They actually end up being ordered to go to Texas, where Erin is originally from, to try to gain allies for an upcoming war, basically. And that's where they kind of reconcile their relationship between the rejection in Texas. It's a couple weeks, and then all hell breaks loose. And I think the worst thing after I finish that, because there's one more book in this series and it doesn't come out until June. I'm gonna go finish my hair. I'm gonna actually change out of this because I am burning up, and let's get into the physical books as I do my makeup. So I'm going to start with my primer as I talk about my first book, and I'm going to use the NYX Marshmallow Primer that I tried in my latest Shop My Stash. So this book I picked up in September and I had to read it immediately. This is My Roommate is a Vampire. I love the cover of this. Super cute. Wasn't very long. I accidentally bent my book. Very sad. I'm going to start on my brows as I talk about this book. So I originally gave this book a 4.5, and I have recently updated it to a 5-star on Goodreads, because the more I thought about it, the more I just loved it. So Cassie is an artist who doesn't really have a foothold anywhere, and she needs to find a new place because she was behind on rent, and she ends up finding a listing on Craigslist. This takes place in Chicago, so good neighborhood, nice apartment, $200 a month, and all the red flags, because there's no photos or anything. She's like, what can I lose? Like, blah blah blah. I can just see where this goes. So this is where Frederick comes in. Frederick is the person that lives in the apartment, and he ends up agreeing to meet with Cassie so she can see the place, and Cassie is struck by how handsome Frederick is. Frederick did have a friend that helped list the apartment, and turns out the friend made a typo and it's supposed to be $2,000 a month, not $200. But since Cassie was the only one that answered the ad, they decided to keep it at $200 because Frederick's not really hurting for money because, hey, you're a vampire. This is a slow burn romance. They really don't get involved with each other until much later on, but there is an attraction that they fight. I was sitting in my little nook reading and I was laughing out loud and bothering my husband because I found this book so funny. Frederick had to get acclimated to the world again because his friend accidentally poisoned him, and that put him to sleep for 100 years. So he woke up with all this new technology and he didn't know how to do anything. The whole premise is he wants a roommate that can kind of look past that he's a vampire and help him figure out the world. I'll move on to Face, and this is the Tula Radiant Skin tint thing. I've tried this before in a previous video. I don't remember my thoughts on it. And then I went into Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I gave this one a 4.5. This is a hockey romance. It's a cute book, not gonna lie. There is spice in it. It's not overwhelmingly a spicy book. And Anastasia and Nathan, or Nate, or Stasi, I think that's how she wants to be called. They are such a cute couple once they get to the point of being a couple. She's a figure skater. She works with a partner named Erin, and they are working towards a goal of being in the Olympics. And Nate is a hockey player who is looking to go to the NHL. So they end up being on the same ice together because someone pulled a prank and basically shorted out the thing that kept the ice cool because their college had 2 rinks, and so now they had to split the hockey and ice skating. It's actually a really nice story altogether. You do learn pretty early on with hints and everything that Aaron is not a good guy, and it really shows it at the end. Anyway, something happens to Aaron and Nate's in trouble, and Nate actually ends up helping Anastasia out on the ice, and just tensions rise because Anastasia wants to believe Aaron is a good guy and Nate is like, no. Overall, I really did like this book. I think this is appropriately hyped, if not a tad bit overhyped, but it is good. I'm a big fan of hockey romances and I eat them up. I'm gonna go in with my Anastasia cream bronzer and talk about the next 2 books, which are the Ex Hex and the Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I talked about these in my October spooky reads TBR thing. These are actually quite nice. They are perfect for October. The story actually takes place during October and it's just perfect. It's witchy, it's cute. I think in both books the ending kind of comes on quickly, as in like a wrap-up process, but the Ex Hex is about Vivi and Rise, who they hooked up during one summer, and then she found out that he was betrothed to another witch, and she broke up with him and they parted ways for 9 years, and then he had to come back to the town whose name is escaping me to kind of rejuice the ley lines. I think that's how you say it. I found this one to be very cute. It was very easy to read. There wasn't much like character development, but it was nice to see them reconnect after so long and still have that same attraction. And the main thing about the Ex Hex is that after having a broken heart, so she did actually end up accidentally cursing Rise, and then they don't realize that until 9 years later when he comes back to the town and everything just kind of messes up for him. The second book takes place from Vivi's cousin's perspective, Gwen, and her love interest, which is Wells, and that is Rise's older brother. So this one is more of an enemies to lovers. I'm gonna move on to my blush now. This is a cream blush from Appledale in the shade Eve, and I thought that the ending kind of wrapped up pretty quickly in this one. It felt too easy how everything just came together at the end for Wells and Gwen, but it was very cute. I really enjoyed the series. I gave both books a 4, and I think there might be a third one that stars the last Penhallow brother, the mountain man whose name I can't remember. I'm gonna go in with my concealer. This is the One Size Turn Up the Base one. And then the next book I read was The Salt Grows Heavy. This is a short story about 100 pages from the author Cassandra Khaw. This is a Little Mermaid retelling that really just, oh, it messed me up. I gave it 4 stars, and the way that the story plays out, like, it's obviously very short, it's fast paced. It took me about an hour to read. I did take a pause in between because I was just like, WTF. But this is technically about like mermaids, and it's like a Little Mermaid retelling without actually being the Little Mermaid retelling, because the mermaid doesn't actually have a name, but the origin line does hint of the prince saving her from the ocean, but then it just takes a twisted turn. Basically, takes place after she comes out of the water and she leaves the sort of town city that the prince was in, and she leaves with the plague doctor, who has kind of been a companion who helped her through her pregnancy. And they go on this journey and they find themselves in the woods, where they basically come across this little village that is completely messed up, and it's basically their turn to learn how to survive. I will admit, I was so deeply disturbed by this book. I had to have an immediate palate cleanser because I made the mistake of reading that closer to when I would go to bed, and I was like, no, I cannot sleep after reading that, because that will just haunt me. It wasn't so much as like a horror story where it scared me, it just disturbed me. But it was great. I'm gonna contour with my Creature Cosmetics Carve Your Face one. I'm gonna go in with just this little shade here. Not a heavy contour, just kind of light. And I'm just gonna go over with a little blush. This is a Jacqueline Rouge Romance. I'm gonna kind of mix these two together. Just a smidge of blush. And for highlight, I'm going in with Spellbinding from Unearthly Cosmetics. This was gifted to me, along with some other ones. I haven't tried this one yet. Ooh, that is pretty. Oh yeah, I like that. I'm just gonna quickly touch up my face. I'm gonna go in with my faux freckles, and then I will probably finish up my brows and then prime my lids, and then I will be right back to finish up the eyes. I'm gonna go in with the Resurgence palette from Unearthly, and this was in collaboration with Heather Austin. This was one of the other palettes that they gifted me. Looks like that. I want to try and do something kind of simple, not gonna lie. I did prime with my Anastasia eye primer, and I'm gonna start with the white shade as I go and talk about my next book. So my next book was By a Thread by Lucy Score. This is my first Lucy Score book. This is a pretty big book, and I must say, I kind of understand the hype in Lucy Score, but I don't think that this was as good of a book as it was hyped up to be. So the main characters in this are Allie and Dominic, and Allie, the premise starts, Allie is working at this pizza place, and Dominic has lunch with his mom there, and they get into an argument basically, and he gets her fired. His mom didn't like that he did that, and found her at the bus stop, and she offered her a job at the magazine place that she owns. So Dominic isn't happy about that, and they end up kind of working together. They are attracted to each other. This book, if you read the back portion, not the back of the book, but the like author's note at the end, Lucy Score apparently wrote this book with the idea of how workplace romance would work after the Me Too movement came out. I found Allie to be quite annoying in the way. Allie is prideful to a fault, and I think Dominic's just trying to do the right thing, and Allie doesn't seem to really appreciate that. I'm gonna go in with this gray shade. Dominic basically took over his dad's job because they kind of outed him from the company because of his harassment with employees there, and they kept it all hush-hush. So it was basically a cover-up thing, and Dominic is dealing with, this was his father. He's fighting his attraction to Allie, and you can see it because it's a dual point of view. You can see he's fighting his attraction because he doesn't want to be his father, because technically Dominic is her boss. There is a power dynamic with that. He basically doesn't want to be his dad, and you kind of get the idea that Allie knows what happened with the owners, but she just doesn't care, and she thinks that Dominic doesn't want her because she's poor or something, when he basically said that's not the reason, and she's just not listening, and then like her pride gets in the way. Now, I did end up giving this a 4-star read because I did enjoy it, but I don't know. I don't think it was as good as it was hyped up to be, and I basically bought this book because of Madison Kate on TikTok. She convinced me that it was going to be the best book ever, and I'm not overly disappointed with it, but I'm not in love with it. I do want to read more Lucy Score books, so if you have any suggestions on what I should read next from her, please let me know. And the next book I read was A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. This one is so cute. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It stars Mariel, who is a witch who just doesn't have a handle on her powers, and she accidentally summons Azroth the Ruthless, who is a bargainer demon, to get souls, and she refuses to give her soul because she was trying to summon Flower, and she got mixed up and summoned a demon. Oz has his own problems. In one of his last bargains, something went screwy and the soul didn't go to the demon realm, it went inside him. So he's a demon with a soul and he doesn't know how to deal. They do have an attraction to each other. He's a very hot demon, but she is so down on herself about her magic because her family literally berates her, but not like in a like I hate you kind of way. They do love her, but they think that they're helping her by beating her down. And she actually is very strong with earth magic, but because the family is big on more showy magic, they thought that she was kind of lesser than them. And there's a prophecy when she was born. I don't think anybody actually takes much stock in it besides her mom, but it is what it is. I really don't know what I want to do. I think I'm going to touch this red on my lower lash line. And the next book I read is Everything She Has by Alicia Dykma. I ended up giving this one a 3.5. This one took me forever to get through, and if I'm being honest, I sped read the last like 50 or so pages of this because I just wanted to get through it. So this is a thriller story that stars Laura Tate, and she is basically like a 30-ish year old woman who works dead-end jobs, who can't make it as a writer, and she is not a very good character. This red is really pretty. I'm going to take it up here also. She is a very envious and jealous person, and when she's working at a coffee shop, she meets Theo Connor and has like an instant attraction to him and his life because he seems smart and rich, and he's a professor, and she's just enthralled by him. But then he comes in again with his wife Astrid, and basically her heart breaks. Naturally, a normal person would be like, oh shoot, he's married, on to the next one. This bitch is like, no, I'm gonna become his wife. I'm gonna take over, reinvent myself. Honestly, it's not a bad story. If you're really into thrillers, I think you would like it, but I had a hard time getting through it because for some reason, reading it, the beginning, I actually started this book back in August. I stopped reading it because it gave me a severe anxiety attack, and it was just like out of the blue. It only happened as I was reading it. It was the most bizarre thing ever, but it's not bad. There is a twist at the end because not everything is as it seems, but overall it was an okay book. I did like If She's Found better, but if you're interested in it, you can find it on Amazon, and it's on Kindle Unlimited if you have Kindle. Next book was What You're Gonna Do by Avery Flynn. This is about Tilda and Gil. Basically, Tilda grows up knowing that she doesn't have any magic compared to her other family members that do. So she takes it upon herself to become the social media manager for her family because her family is very powerful and they're not the most approachable group. So she tries to reinvent their image online and get people to kind of like them a little more. She ends up getting set up on dates with the same guy over and over. His name's Gil, and she can't stand him. Also, does he or does he not look like Thor's brother? So Gil is kind of like a double agent. He works for the council that everybody thinks doesn't exist anymore. He is tasked with the job of basically spying on Tilda and her family to see if she truly does have no powers. Tilda does find him annoying, but there is an attraction there. Eventually, it turns out that Tilda screws up her sister's spell and something happens to her entire family, so now it's up to her and her two best friends, who are basically bad at magic, to fix everything with the help of Gil. I'm gonna use one of these shimmers. What would go good? Maybe transform? So I will admit that I was thrown off with the writing style of this story. Oh, that's pretty. Because it's basically written in the perspective of like the author is talking to you, because it's like, it'll be like a line is like explaining something and be like, you know what I mean? It threw me off for the first couple of chapters, but I kind of got used to it. I wasn't too impressed with the story. I ended up giving it a 3.5, but like it wasn't horrible, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I go in with that white and just on top to brighten it a little bit. And then the last book that I finished was What Happens After Midnight. This is by K.L. Walther. This one I gave 4 stars to. I did really enjoy her other book, The Summer of Broken Rules. I like that one better, but this one wasn't bad. It's very cute. It's a young adult story. It takes place in high school, and it's like, I'm over the age of 30. I shouldn't be reading about high schoolers, but it is what it is. I'm gonna go back in with that transform shade. So this is about Lily and her end of the school year happenings. So she is a senior getting ready to graduate, and she's dealing with the heartbreak of what happened with her ex-boyfriend, whose name is Tag. So Lily actually breaks up with Tag, and you don't get the real reason why until later into the story. But the premise of the entire book is every year there is a jester that is chosen to perform the senior prank, and I'm gonna go in with my liner. She gets roped into doing the prank, and the leader happens to be none other than her ex-boyfriend, Tag. Basically, the majority of the book is them setting up the prank and Tag and Lily basically skirting around what happened in their relationship, because Tag was obviously heads over heels for Lily and Lily the same, and then something happened, and you know, it's like young love heartbreak. I think one thing that threw me off about this book was there was no epilogue, and basically what you read on the back of the book is what the story is. You get what you get. It's a cute, fast, fun read. I think if you are high school age or much younger than me, you would thoroughly enjoy it because it is a cute read. But I think my main problem with it is when you do learn why Lily broke up with Tag, you gotta remember, teenage boys are stupid. They learn later on in life that they are stupid, but we know as adults that teenage boys are stupid. But you're telling me that this smart, caring man didn't understand what was going on? Don't believe it for a second. I don't believe that. I have no faith in guys. I'm just tightlining, by the way, very badly because it's bothering my eyes. I'm gonna call it quits on the eyeshadow. I have this little moon stamp. I'm gonna do on the corners, and then there, and there. I will admit, these can stain your eyes. So really quick before I hop off to finish my makeup, I want to talk about For the Throne. As I'm filming this right now, I am only about 40% of the way through. It is technically only September 29th as I'm filming this. I have 2 more days to finish this, which I do plan on having it done by tomorrow night. So I will include my rating for this down below. And I will either put up on my book or Instagram TikTok a quick review of this book and a comparison between the first story and this one. I'm going to hop off and I'm going to put on lashes. I have these lashes from NYX. I'm going to give them a try. They're the Bewitched style, and they actually have like some pink through it, so I think it'll tie in with everything. But yeah, I will throw on the lip, put on some necklaces, and then I will be right back. Alright, and here is my completed look. For my lips, I ended up going in with Rare Beauty's Tinted Lip Oil in the shade Hope. I thought that just the pinky tone would work well. I feel very cute. My hair is straight for once, and it actually looks much longer than I thought it was, which is fabulous. So yeah, I've read way too many books this month. I'm hoping I can read just as much in October. I have a video up where I talked about my October hopeful TBR, which I will link down below if you're interested in that. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books and if you have, what you think of them, because I love hearing other people's opinions. But yeah, I'm happy with this look. I'm happy with the books I read. I cannot believe that it's already October. Happy spooky season. I did plan on doing Halloween looks, but I'm not going to be able to do 31 days of Halloween, so I think I'm going to cut it down to 13 days. The cicadas are driving me crazy, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I hope you have an amazing day or night whenever you're watching this. Don't forget to follow me on my other socials. I'm artistryxashh everywhere, and my book accounts are Devouring Bookishly on TikTok and Instagram. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye!